Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. Jordan and I just wanted to give you an update on the tee project. This started in early July during the closure and is just completed and growing in. And today is actually the first day that tee markers are on the new tee complex. So Jordan wanted to give you an update on what you're going to see out here if you haven't been out through the construction process, and what the theories behind this tee complex and the new cart paths will be. So Jordan, tell us a little bit about this tee deck. We share tees for 2 holes and then also the new forward and senior tee as well.
Sure. Yeah, so if you guys notice, like, this entire area will be tee height, so it'll give us the freedom and the options to put the tee markers in a number of places instead of being designated to a specific tee area. The short grass will come right off the back of 14 green and flow into the tee, and we really have a lot of freedom to manipulate the distance of the hole if we so choose. We can actually stick a white tee marker all the way up here in this little flat right down there. That's about as far up as we can go on number 12 with the white tees, and where we have the white tees on 15 today is about as far up as we can go on 15. But you see, we have a lot of room to go back if we so choose.
So prior to this design by Gil Hansen and his team, the flexibility to move those tee markers around wasn't really great, right? I mean,
That's
you had
right.
a lot of limitations on the size of tee boxes, correct?
Yep.
And then get close together?
That's exactly right. We didn't have that much freedom to manipulate a hole from day to day. We didn't have any freedom to manipulate the shot shape the hole requires you to play, whereas here the tee space is so great. One day you may need to play a draw, and the next day you may need to play a fade. So it really plays a lot into playability, and it gives us the ability to change the hole and keep things fresh for the membership, to keep it fun.
That's great. And then as far as the forward tee goes, you'll see as you come through the mounds here, on the other side of the mounds, there's new forward tees. Tell us about the theory behind that and why you and Gil Hansen's team felt we needed to move those tees forward.
Sure. So in order to get to the tees, you'll see our new cart path material. So we got rid of the concrete and we come in with a natural aggregate. All this is granite screening. So this is actually granite, and it will compact quite tight, and so far so good for us. The other good thing about it is you can play off of it, and if your ball hits it, it's a very dead reaction. In other words, your ball doesn't bounce uncontrollably like it would if it hit concrete.
It won't careen off to the side.
It won't careen, yep, and it pretty much hits and stops, and then it's pretty easy to play off of because it's so compact. But anyway, once you navigate your way through the mounds, you will see 2 new forward tees on both 12 and 15. We got those down on the flats in order to keep people from having to climb the big slope to get up to the actual forward tees. On 12, the tee on the mound goes away completely. On 15, the tee on the mound will stay there, and we will use that tee occasionally. Not very often, but we will have it there if we so choose to use it. But for the most part, the green and the red tees will be on the new forward tees down on the flat. That makes them much more accessible, and it changes the center line of the tee shot. So on number 12, where you used to have to play a draw essentially because you were so shoved over to the left into those oak trees, we shifted it way over to the right to put you more in the center line of the hole off the tee.
And lastly, one thing just before we talk about the native areas, those cart paths, if you remember, both were concrete for 12 and 15, and they just kind of ran up the middle of the tee shots and just distracted your eye away from the aesthetics of the golf hole. So the goal there was to kind of hide them into the mounds, and they're also more natural, so they don't stand out quite as much.
And while we're on that topic, I'll just speak to this quickly. I have had a lot of questions about, or more comments from members saying that our membership probably won't use the cart paths because they can just drive right over the grass where the old path used to be. That's certainly the case right now. You can do that. I would encourage you to use the cart path and kind of see how it flows and use it. But right now there's nothing stopping you from going up and over the grass. But once this project is complete, all the turf on these mounds will be gone, and it'll all be the sandy scrub look like we're looking at right there. And then the moats on the backside will be redefined and dug out. So you won't be able to cross them with a golf cart. The only place you'll be able to cross with a golf cart is on the bridge that we built with the new path material. If you're a walker, there'll be cross-tie walk bridges crossing over the moats, but it won't have the ability to carry a cart. So that, I just wanted to speak to that because I have had a number of questions from members about that, or comments rather.
Perfect. So lastly, let's talk a little bit about the sandy scrub area that is a theme throughout the master plan. And there's a little bit of a showcase here around this 12 and 15T complex, to the right of 15T, but then more prominently right in front of the tee shot here on the middle mound. And that sod has all been scraped off, that's natural there. And then Jordan's come back in with some native grasses that are going to be planted kind of throughout in these native areas. So Jordan, tell us a little bit about these grasses and kind of what they'll look like in 6 months or a year.
Sure. So all of these grasses are indeed native to the southeast, and even more specifically native to the coastal region. Starting here on the left, this is what's known as wiregrass. Aristida stricta is the scientific name. It will eventually get about 18 inches tall, but it remains very wispy. All of these grasses remain very thin and wispy, which will allow your club to slide through it. It won't be so thick that you can't put a swing on it. But in general, most of these areas where we're going to be planting these native areas aren't going to be in play. But moving on, this is a grass called lopsided Indian grass. Sigustrum segundum is the scientific name. It will actually get about 24 inches high, and it throws a seed head, and all the seeds are only on one side of the stem, which makes it kind of droop over, which is why they call it lopsided Indian grass. This is one called little blue stem. This one will get about 14 to 16 inches tall. And it actually, when it's mature, the stem turns a beautiful silvery blue color, which is where it gets its name. And then finally down there on the end, we will not have much of these at all, but these are actually a wildflower, Liatris gracilis, or blazing star. It will throw a beautiful cylindrical bloom, purple bloom, but we're putting those out for the pollinators to keep the bees happy and also give a little bit of color, but they will be very sparse. All of these grasses are bunch style grasses, meaning they will not creep and they will not go where we don't want them to go. So where we plant them is pretty much where they stay. I have had a lot of people ask me about that. So they don't creep. And all three of these grasses here, like I say, they are native to the region. And these grasses here are what you would have seen growing in longleaf pine woods 400, 500, 600 years ago.
So as they grow, even as they get taller, they still remain playable if someone hits a shot. The majority of the native areas are going to be out of play, but obviously a ball is going to find them. It'll remain playable throughout those native areas, even as they mature. So,
yep.
This hillside right now, you really can't see it all that well because obviously they're newly planted. But Jordan, what's that going to look like in 6 months and a year down the road?
It's going to look very much native. Like I say, it will indeed look like longleaf pine woods did 400, 500, 600 years ago. Long before we came in and developed this area, these grasses were here. And like Alex said, they do remain very thin and very playable. It's unlike tall fescue that you see a lot in the Atlanta market, that if your ball goes in, you can hardly find it, and if you can find it, you certainly can't put a swing on it. All of these grasses will lend itself pretty easily to finding your ball and playing it out of it. But as far as what the mature look will look like, it's difficult for me to describe, but Pinehurst number 4, number 2, Ohoopee, Pine Valley, any of those golf courses with the sandy natural scrub look, we're going to look like that to some degree. Our areas are going to be much, there's not going to be as many areas on this golf course as there are on the other courses that I just mentioned. But predominantly it's going to be on the mounds and the moats. So we'll have this nice green grass going right up to a brown ribbon of the mounding and the moats that go all the way from here down to number 3, all the way across the property.
Perfect. Excited to see that mature. And kind of the last piece we wanted to share with you is something Jordan's worked on with the Hans design team. They're going to do a rendering of what this area is going to look like once the project in this quadrant's completed. So Jordan, what is that going to kind of entail here? Is it going to tie in that native across those mounds?
Yes, it'll answer a lot of people's questions as far as, like I mentioned earlier, the cart path, being able to have the freedom as of right now to ride over the grass. So the rendering will actually show this entire area here, what it'll look like when we're completely done with the project. So it'll show all 3 mounds with the turf being removed, the sandy scrub and the native grass. It'll show the moats, how they're going to be dug out and redefined. It'll show the cross tile walk bridge concept. It'll kind of show everything that I've been getting questions about. And once we get that, we'll actually put it on an easel and we'll set it out here for everyone to be able to see. And hopefully that answers everyone's questions about what it is going to look like when we are done.
So we're excited to get that last piece of it. The construction here is done. The tees are open today. And if you have any further questions about the plan, the tee boxes, anything regarding the golf course, feel free to reach out to Jordan or myself. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.